and some let me define equity. Don't tell me what I'm okay with, because I can hear what I'm saying. But why don't you listen and learn and try to understand and have some empathy for the criminal justice system that have ensnared a lot of people?
Let me ask you a question.
But it's not that simple. Absolutely. I'm sure you do in your position in life. But let me just tell you something, that there are a lot of people in this. If I can finish my point and you can use these.
I don't know how you're going to get
well, if you listen, you might find out. It is not as simple. The cases, instead of caging people like animals who have been in jail for decades, in prisons for decades, for a dime bag of marijuana, when I see white boys walking down my street in a gentrified neighborhood smoking it freely and openly, you have to wonder, yes, there is something wrong with our criminal justice system.
A lot of individuals who get over-sentenced are typically black men. That's a fact. And I have no problem, I'm just going to be honest about this, with the President of the United States, happens to be a Republican, taking a look at some of these cases and said, I'm going to pardon or commute some of these sentences. I actually applaud that. Biden didn't do it, Obama didn't do it. I'm going to give Trump credit. But I'm talking about who.
We're just talking about this. They went to her summer home and surveilled the home. They had a plan that would have involved blowing up a bridge, injuring or perhaps killing people. This was a very...
Hello, everybody. Guys, let's get right into this segment. I just have to say, the world would be just a much better place if Tiffany Cross was invited to these panels, or any panel, more often. Let's get right into it, and we'll talk about it.
How would Donald Trump, Fox, and MAGA react if Joe Biden commuted the sentence of a notorious gang leader, someone serving life for murder and beatings and drug deals? Well, Trump did that tonight. Here's another one for you. How would Donald Trump, Fox, and MAGA react if Joe Biden conspired to pardon a left-wing militia convicted of kidnapping a Republican governor? Well, Trump is considering that tonight, but in reverse. It involves a plot against Gretchen Whitmer.
Will you pardon the people who are accused of conspiring to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer?
I'm going to look at it. I will take a look at it. It's been brought to my attention. I did watch the trial. It looked to me like somewhat of a railroad job. A lot of people are asking me that question from both sides, actually. A lot of people think they got railroaded.
You might recall that members of a right-wing militia were convicted of the kidnapping plot, which included weapons of mass destruction. The timing is interesting, though, since for the last 2 weeks, Trump and his allies have reacted this way to James Comey posting a picture of 8647 in seashells in the sand.
Whatever your politics, we cannot allow people to get by without being held accountable for this kind of public call to assassinate the President of the United States. I'm very concerned for his life, and James Comey, in my view, should be held accountable and put behind bars for this.
Quite a difference, I guess, 2 weeks makes. But I think the principle here for Donald Trump, it seems, when it comes to pardons is, if you're on my side of the ideological ledger, you'll get a pardon. If you're not, you won't. But when it comes to threats, they just don't seem to have a problem with, I mean, this was beyond threats. I mean, this was a plan. They were outside of her house. Like, this was not just people talking.
Well, it's fair to throw the hypocrisy flag. It is certainly the case that people on the right would be very animated if the same thing were happening in the other direction. But it's also appropriate to look at the individual cases. And the case with Whitmer and these particular gentlemen is actually a little bit dubious. You had the feds who had to try it twice in order to actually score the conviction. There's a lot about the conviction that looks a lot like these post 9/11 convictions, where you've got informants who are the actual people who in some instances are advocating most strenuously for people to take kind of insane action. So it's worthwhile to take a look at this. There has certainly been a number of cases, especially related to January 6th, where you had over prosecution of particular people. So I don't know that the White House is out of bounds here. I think the challenge for the president is that in addition to these situations where it might be justified to offer a pardon, the president is also doing all manner of very strange stuff where people who are politically aligned with him and have criminal investigations and prosecutions have them disappear.
To offer a pardon to a criminal that's been convicted, I don't care what president you are, when you offer a pardon and you give it, it's unequivocal. Biden got fried like a chicken in a microwave by pardoning his son. Trump's getting fried right now. These are criminals. Either you just remove the ability for an executive to pardon criminals, or you deal with this in every administration.
Except the executive is...
What happened to the party of law and order, Papi? I mean, aren't you guys that party? I mean, what am I talking about? We all saw you guys beat the crap out of cops that led to some of them passing away on January 6th. Because, once again, Republicans were fooled and tricked to think that Trump won the election. I mean, again, I just don't know how not to sound mean for some of these things. Republicans just tend to be so incredibly gullible and just believe some of the most ridiculous things. And then when it doesn't come true, they ignore it. They ignore it ever happened. And that they ever believed it and move on to the next conspiracy. It's incredible. Party of law and order.
The criminal himself. I mean, he was convicted of 34 laws, so that
Maybe
is
he
a
should
serious
pardon
thing.
himself right now.
Well, I don't think it matters, quite frankly. And these people were. It was not just. You're saying it's over prosecution, but the fact
I'm
of the
saying
matter
not all
is,
criminal convictions are the same.
Fair
and
enough,
here
but the
the
fact
feds
of the matter
literally
is,
failed
most people
the
are
first
not
time.
going to dig into the
Yeah, but they
minutiae of
didn't.
that.
Let's just to be clear, people were sentenced to long sentences for this, and it wasn't. Again, I said this at the beginning, but it bears repeating. They weren't just talking about this. They went to her summer home and surveilled the home. They had a plan that would have involved blowing up a bridge, injuring or perhaps killing people. This was a very serious thing. I get informants are tricky, but it is a normal part of law enforcement to utilize them so that they can catch people who have the intent to commit crimes. That is not a new thing.
But there's also, MAGA has a major right-wing militia problem. I'm from Oklahoma City. I was there when Timothy McVeigh blew up the federal building. And what's so insane about what has happened since then is we haven't reconciled this problem with, right-wing militias, and they are all in Trump's big tent party now, and he's pardoned them. And it's a very dangerous movement in the American public. And, you saw a daycare get blown up, and my state continually votes for a party that embraces right-wing militia, and pardoning all of those January 6 criminals is just despicable. I mean, we're either a country of the rule of law or we're not. And people die from this stuff. And these people are extreme, and they are welcome and excused by the President of the United States. And that is unacceptable.
And guys, check out her podcast. I Hate It podcast. It's great. But she's completely right. And just look at it in this context. He pardoned the people that tried kidnapping Governor Whitmore, which, by the way, was a white nationalist gang. He also pardoned the white nationalist gang that helped him try to overtake the government in that failed insurrection attempt. Republican voters, guys, are 80% of the voters. 80% of the people that vote Republican are white. And these white people aren't, let's just say, these aren't the nice ones. These aren't the ones that despise anyone that is different in any way possible. Whether it's color, gender, sexuality, you name it. These are those people. And obviously not all of them. But there's a huge base. This is why Trump uses racism. This is why he panders in this way. Because it's popular amongst Republicans to be that way. To be a bigot. To be anti-Semitic. To treat women badly. I mean, I don't know how more simple to say it. So when I see Trump do these things, I feel that the people that vote for him, they see him as someone that's protecting white people, right? Pardoning a white nationalist gang, I think they see that he's protecting them. Like, guys, these people, a lot of this Republican base, these people think racism is most prevalent against against white people right now, against them. I mean, just let that sink in. White people have about 8 times the wealth that black people have in this country. And I think even more than that than Hispanics, I'm not sure. Oh, and by the way, the main reason they have 8 times the wealth than they do of black people is because they enslaved them for 400 years. But DEI is anti-white. Haven't you heard? I mean, what do you say to that?
Agencies identified that right-wing white supremacists are one of the top threats to national security here in this country. And regardless of, like, again, I think people are not going to get into the minutia of the case. It's the message that it sends. It's the message that it is okay if you're plotting. But yeah, I understand
the specific cases do matter. And I think talking
they may matter in the minutia, but most of America is going to read the headline, not the story. And they're going to see if I can curry favor with this president, then that matters.
Can I add one more specific case? I mean, there were a slew of pardons. Larry Hoover, one of the most notorious gangsters in the country and certainly in Illinois history. Having his sentence commuted, he's still facing a prison time on state
charges,
that very, very long sentences. So he's not going anywhere for the time being. But why is Trump doing that, other than that people like Kanye West and others have called
Well, I mean, his attorneys have attempted to get a commutation or pardon, I believe, since Obama's second term. I mean, so this isn't a new thing. The guy's 74 years old. His health is declining from what I have read. Yeah, he did some pretty horrible things, but should we keep the guy in prison for the rest of his life? He did a crime. He served the time. I think at a minimum...
Allegedly, he did many crimes, and the time that he was sentenced to was several life sentences. I'm not arguing...
Yeah, that's a big...
I'm not arguing. I just want people to understand the facts here, because I think it's important. There are a lot of people in this country, as you know, who are facing very lengthy prison sentences for far, far less. And some of them Trump has actually pardoned, the First Step Act and now. But I'm really trying to understand, why does Larry Hoover end up at the top of this list?
Well, again, Abby, his attorneys have been trying to get a commutation for years now. It wasn't just Hoover, it was also the rapper, I believe, NBA Youngboy got a pardon today as well. Look, you look at the criminal justice system, a lot of individuals who get over-sentenced are typically black men. That's a fact. And I have no problem, I'm just going to be honest about this, with the President of the United States, happens to be a Republican, taking a look at some of these cases and said, I'm going to pardon or commute some of these sentences.
I actually applaud that.
Biden didn't do it, Obama didn't do it. I'm going to give Trump credit.
But
I'm talking about Hoover in particular.
Let me play Donald Trump from just a year and a half ago or so.
This is incredible. So Michael tried to ignore that Kanye West asked Trump to do it. Abby mentioned it to him. And because Kanye is a complete nut who hates Jews, Trump knows the base of his party, the Republican Party, despises Jews and extremely anti-Semitic and love the Elon Musk Nazi salute. It's very simple. And Trump knows they've been angry with him with this whole fake fighting he's doing for Jewish students on Harvard campuses and whatnot. So he's feeding a little anti-Semitic meat for the Nazi salute base who likes Kanye West, right? So if he pleases Kanye West, he pleases the anti-Semitic people on his base. I mean, it's quite simple. I think this is why he's doing it. And I'm going to say something later on about Michael, but let's let this finish out.
We're going to be asking everyone who sells drugs, gets caught selling drugs, to receive the death penalty for their heinous acts, because it's the only way. But if we don't get tough on the drug dealers, we're wasting our time. Just remember that. We're wasting our time. And that toughness includes the death penalty.
The only way to resolve
the guy's been in prison a long time. He served a lot of years.
The executive to pardon anybody. If you are a criminal and you go to jail, it's because you broke the law. Now, if you don't like the fact that people can pick one or the other, you can't tell me that you can decide one criminal is better than another in a pardon, or that their crime is not as deep as another.
But it's just
remove the ability for an executive to pardon anybody, and we don't have to talk about this anymore. Just don't break the law. It's that simple.
But it's not that simple.
Really? I think it's very simple.
I'm sure you do in your position in life, but let me just tell you something, that there are a lot of people in this. If I can finish my point and you can use these.
I don't know how you're going to get there.
Well, if you listen, you might find out. It is not as simple. It is not as simple as if you don't want to go to jail, don't break the law. There are millions of black people in this country who have been ensnared by a very punishing criminal justice system where they have been wrongfully convicted or unfairly sentenced in this
All
country.
of them? Every one of them?
No, obviously not every one of them, but the same way that you can support a president who is convicted of crimes himself, there have certainly been people who have been sentenced to crimes that they did not commit or they were unfairly sentenced. That is why we have the First Step Act. But the reason we have the First Step Act is because there needs to be a second step. The First Step Act mainly focuses on federal policy, but there are a lot of people, over 1.1 million black men remain in jail today. So this president is not, he's not vested in some let me define equity. Don't tell me what I'm okay with, because I think I hear what I'm saying. But why don't you listen and learn and try to understand and have some empathy for the criminal justice system that have ensnared a lot of people.
Let me ask you a question about.
Because, and he's someone, guys, look up him and his wife and his boat accident he did. This is so amazing. It's because people like him think if you're a white person and you got pardoned or you came out that you don't have to go to jail, whatever, then you didn't commit a crime and you should be let go. But he believes if you're a black person, you committed a crime, you should go to jail. And that's why he was like, all of them are innocent. Of course, she's not trying to say that all black people are innocent, but that a lot of them disproportionately, of course, have been wrongfully convicted. And he knows this. It's just that internally he believes that if you're black, let's just be real, the likelihood of you wrongfully being convicted is low. He believes if you're a black person and you're convicted, you did the crime no matter what. These people are gross.
About the Larry Hoover of it all. I mean, do you think Trump is right to take the step that he did today? Or, I mean, I think some of this, I mean, you mentioned NBA YoungBoy, he's also in the past part in Kodak Black. They're trying to appeal to black men.
Of course.
Okay, so is this about that or is it about Larry Hoover?
Their intentions are impure. But I will be honest with you, I'm fine with pardons. I kind of agree with you, Michael. Like if he's 75 years old, yes, because it's impossible. When you think about the 230 plus people who were shipped offshore to a torture camp. When you think about this president who breaks the law routinely, convicted of 34 felonies right here in New York. When you think about the number of people, we've just decided in this country that these laws and these rules are pixie dust. The Constitution, who cares? Who cares about the emoluments clause? Give me this jet. Who cares about the 14th Amendment? So at this point, we have to ask, what is the law? So why do laws apply to some people and not the other? So if it's time for Larry Hoover to say, yeah, fine, then pardon Larry Hoover, but also let's look at all the other cases instead of caging people like animals who have been in jail for decades, in prisons for decades, for a dime bag of marijuana. When I see white boys walking down my street in a gentrified neighborhood smoking it freely and openly, you have to wonder, yes, there is something wrong with our criminal justice system. Respectfully, it is not as simple as, well, if you don't want to go to jail, don't break the law. That is spoken from a place of privilege. And if you look at fact and history and data and statistics in this country, you will see that there are so many people. There are so many people who are in prison.
We do have to leave it there. We do have to leave it there.
She's so effective. She's quick. She's smart. She's vigilant, right? She's not gonna back down. But anyways, you have to understand the angle. Michael was trying to come there earlier. He was trying to make the argument, well, Trump, if he's fighting on behalf of black people and their well-being, and Biden and Obama didn't do it, like, are you kidding me? So you believe that this is helpful to black people? Okay. It was one black person. Okay, let's say for the overall black community, this is helpful. Let's give them that. So then you would have to give me that when Trump calls black people DEI hires, that harms them, right? You can't possibly think that benefits them. How about when he said illegal immigrant jobs are supposed to be black people's jobs? What did he mean by that, little Michael? I really wonder what he would say about some of these things. How about removing pictures of people of color from the White House? Is that also to benefit black people? Removing black military generals? As they said, he could be a DEI hire. So, to be safe, let's just get rid of him. I mean, this is just an incredible argument that he was trying to make there. Kevin O'Leary is just that bald moron over here. He's just a bigot with very bigoted ideas. In some ways, I think Michael's a little bit more insidious because he's almost trying to make it seem like Trump is what? Trying to help black people out of the kindness of his heart? Really? You're really trying to sanitize this dude's racism? Literally why he's in the Republican Party. It's literally for that. This is why Republicans enjoy having black people in their party, because they act as shields for racism. It's pretty disgusting. Like, Where is Tim Scott and Byron Donalds? What happened to those guys? Is Byron Donalds still calling Trump daddy? Somebody let me know in the comments. I'm not even kidding. He called Trump daddy. The party of alpha men, right? Guys, this again, it frustrates me so much, people like Shermichael, because he once fought against racism. And he got fired for it by Trump during his first term. Now look at him on the side of racism and helping them sanitize it. How effing dare you? But I'm going to leave it there, guys. This one was just, like most of these, frustrating to watch. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments. I try and read just about all of them. Please leave a like, subscribe. It really helps the channel, really helps push the message out there. And I'll catch you in the next one.